It is officially 2024, and Julie and I have started our world trip. We are currently exploring the island of Taiwan and having a great time. But we were also lucky enough to have our friends visit for a little bit more travel around Japan before we left. We were able to explore Kyoto, Tokyo, and even head up into the mountains for some onsen and hiking. Now, obviously, that's a lot to fit into one video, so I'm going to go through things kind of quickly. Starting with Kyoto. Our friends Dom and Liz first met us in Hamamatsu, where we live, but early the next morning, we headed down to Kyoto. It was the end of November, so the autumn leaves were full of color. So we made sure to stop at Arashiyama, or the bamboo forest. The leaves in the garden there were absolutely spectacular, and we were really lucky to catch them during the height of their color. We then spent a bit of time walking around the city before heading off to Kiyomizu-dera. They held a special event for the autumn season where they lit up the whole temple. It was beautiful, and these images really don't do it justice. We finished off the night with some delicious ramen. The next morning, we explored the city a little more and enjoyed some ochazuke for breakfast lunch. It was delicious. And eventually, we made our way over to Kinkakuji, which looked beautiful in the early evening sun. Finally, our time in Kyoto came to an end, and we headed back to Hamamatsu. The next morning, we made our way up to a local Buddhist temple for a class on Zazen meditation. It was our first time trying it, and it was difficult, but really fun. And afterwards, we got to try some traditional Buddhist food. Everything was vegetarian, including the mock eel, and extremely delicious. Kyoto was wonderful, but it was kind of crowded, as is always the case. So we were really excited to have a bit of a more relaxing day. After exploring the temple a little more, we eventually made our way home. The next day, we just did some shopping around Hamamatsu, so I didn't really film anything, but it was fun. However, on the next day, we made our way up to Sumatakyo Onsen. This involved getting on a train, getting on another older train, and then a bus, and then a second, longer bus. This area is famous for the bright blue water that flows through the mountain streams, and the wonderful natural hot springs. After that, we made our way all the way down the mountain and headed towards Tokyo. It took us a while to get there, so we really only had time for some ramen in Shinjuku before heading to sleep. But the next morning we had a little bit of time, so we headed to the local park. But unfortunately, Dom and Liz had to leave that afternoon. That said, our other friends, Clinton and Ariel, met us later that night. We met up in Shibuya and enjoyed some delicious katsudon. And in the morning, explored Tokyo. We spent the day exploring Harajuku and Akihabara, and it was really nice for Julie and I to see some parts of Tokyo that we hadn't seen in a while. And in the morning, we got to go to Tsukiji Fish Market, which Julie and I had never done before. But we were pretty ready to head out of the city and go back into the countryside. That evening, we arrived in Hakone. Clinton and Ariel had found a wonderful little ryokan in the area, and we were shocked by how nice it was. Everything from the lobby to the in-room bath was fantastic, and the dinner was marvelous. So, thank you very much, both of you, for sharing that experience with us. But eventually, it was time to head home. Because early the next morning, we went all the way to Magome in Gifu Prefecture, where we started our short section of hiking the Nakasendo. This is an old trail that runs through the mountains in the center of Japan, and they've preserved a short section of it. It runs through some old historic villages and down through some beautiful forest. I had been wanting to do this hike for years, so I was really excited to try it before we left Japan. That evening, we stayed in Inuyama, in Aichi Prefecture. Inuyama Castle is one of the oldest in Japan, and the central keep has been standing for centuries. Clinton and I are both interested in woodworking, so it was really fun to look around and see all the little joinery and details in the castle. And the view from the top was spectacular. But, unfortunately, we did have to head home to Hamamatsu and go back to work. But Julie and I are both so grateful to have the experience to explore a little bit more of Japan one last time before we left, especially with good company. So thank you, Dom and Liz, Clinton and Ariel, for coming out to visit and joining us for this experience. We really appreciated spending time with all of you, and we are excited to visit again somewhere along our world trip. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and we'll see you at our next destination.
Oh God, give me a headache already.